it is oil color you use or acrylic color, you have so many media.
Right in the middle of this forest in southwest Ogun State and inside the buildings below, a young generation of farmers in Nigeria is changing the face of farming and attracting young people to a venture many of them had not always liked. And 36-year-old Peter Okoche Jr., or PJ as he's fondly called, is leading the change. An economist by training before branching off into farming, PJ and his team are deploying a unique method of farming known as aeroponics to grow cash crops, starting out here in August of 2017.
What's taking place is that you're seeing agricultural technology. It's a disruptive form of technology. It's called aeroponics, whereby the plants are grown in a soilless medium. Essentially, there's no soil, and the roots of the plants, which are underneath these boxes, are being misted with nutrients and so forth. So everything is within a controlled environment, and it's fully automated as well.
Their focal crop is yam, a very popular edible starchy tuber mainly cultivated in Africa and exported across the world.
So the yam subsector of the overall agricultural sector, it's a very lucrative sector. But the problem is that the requisite inputs haven't been applied. And so what we're doing in this program is saying that, okay, we know that there's a sector that currently has a value, according to the Food and Agricultural Organization based in Rome, of about 13 billion US dollars. But with the requisite inputs, the yam subsector will grow from 13 billion to about 19 billion dollars. And this is Nigeria alone. So what we've said is that, okay, we know also that Nigeria accounts for 60% of the global production of yam, but yet we don't have inputs such as seed. And as you know, seeds, or the lab and the seed essentially is the genesis of the agricultural sector. So what we're doing is that in conjunction with IITA, we get clean seeds, essentially from IITA, from the lab, and then we come and we transplant to the system here.
The system is a greenhouse where the yam seeds are grown in this row of boxes using aeroponics, more like growing yams in the air. Now just take a look at these leaves. Every leaf you see here is a potential tuber of yam. So to get a sense of how many tubers of yam we have here, you just have to do a count of all the leaves we have here. It's something very massive.
We have about 10 boxes, and in those boxes, all fully automated aeroponic systems, and it leads to high propagation of plants. And so we're actually massively propagating, and it will continue like this for a 3-year period of just continuous growth, non-stop. After the propagation, what you'll see is that it will essentially form a canopy. It will be very bush-like and so forth. And from there, we'll start vine cutting. And from the vine cutting, we'll cut these. We'll put them into essentially polyethylene bags and with a nutrient solution, and they'll stay in there for about a month. And essentially, what it is that because this is in a controlled environment, we're taking them out and saying, okay, we're preparing you for a month to get used to the external elements. And they'll be there for a month, and then we eventually take them to the field.
This is the field where they are brought and planted into the soil so the seeds could develop fully.
These right now currently have been here for about 3 weeks, and we're still planting now, and they'll be here for a total of about 3 months. And after about 3 months, we'll get seeds of about 250 to about 500 grams. And those are the seeds that we'll provide to farmers. And farmers can then go and plant directly, and it will give them the ware yam sizes of 1 kg, 2 kg and above.
One of the smallholder farmers who's been using the yam seeds from the aeroponics farm is Awofe Ademola. He's been into traditional yam farming all his adult life and says the yam seeds from the aeroponics farm have seen his output more than double and saved from pests.
There's a lot of difference between the two methods because the new method doesn't get infected by pests and it doesn't change color like the traditional planted yams. It will remain fresh as it is wherever it is kept. Their yam when harvested is almost 3 times or 4 times more than ours. When we plant one of our own seed yam, it equates to 4 of theirs.
Habibat Umar is the only female in the group. She's one of those overseeing the day-to-day running of the smart farm. She says she's fascinated by the whole idea of it.
One of the things that fascinates me most is the fact that we can go all year round producing food. More like you can cheat God's creation and having to depend on the rain and all. And everybody wants to eat all the time. You don't want to wait for when the rain is here. And so the fact that we can provide the food all year round, it's everything to me.
Even though all may seem fine, PJ and his team are battling familiar challenges to keep their operations running.
More attention needs to be given to the sector. There needs to be more financing put in place. We need to have adequate land laws in place and to ensure that we can optimize all the arable land that we have and so forth. There needs to be insurance. We need to have better road networks. Power is a major impediment as well. Essentially we have our own solar system, as well as the fact that we also have a generator as well for backup. So power cost is also a major impediment as well. So all of these things, if we can put all these things in place, then the sector will boom for sure.
PJ and his team are setting themselves up as role models for young people. In a country where youth unemployment is high, They are hoping to inspire many within their age bracket to take to their kind of farming technique.
We need women to even join this chain, because this is not all about. This is we've gone past the stage of waiting for men doing it. So why wouldn't I want to be part of it? Like, let people say, "Oh, she's a woman, she's doing it." Do you understand? So women have to join this chain.
My message for the youth is saying that, listen, with the use of technology and disruptive methods such as this, essentially you can run your farm on your laptop, on your computer and so forth and everything. I mean, it's all automated. So essentially this makes agriculture cool. It makes agriculture sexy. I mean, you have the technological components to it and so forth and everything. So it's not just the conventional, back-breaking work in the field and so forth and everything like that. There are also these components as well that will make it appealing to the youth. So I say, listen, join me. We have a nation to feed and we have a nation to grow as well.
Hello and welcome to the program. Debate on electoral reforms and proposed amendments to key sections of Nigeria's Electoral Act of 2022 and the 1999 Constitution ahead of the 2027 elections and other elections in the country are dominating public discourse. The proposals were presented during the joint Senate and House of Representatives committees on electoral matters in conjunction with the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. One of such proposed reforms is the removal of the powers to appoint resident electoral commissioners (REC) from the president and vest the power in INEC. INEC is seeking the constitutional changes that will grant the commission the authority to appoint and discipline heads of its state offices, to be known as State Directors of Elections. INEC also emphasized the need for a single-day voting system and the eradication of permanent voters' cards ahead of the 2027 general election to ensure credibility, saying this will reduce the cost and streamline elections in the country. The Commission further renewed calls for the amendment to the Constitution to allow Nigerians in the diaspora as well as certain categories of citizens within the country to participate in future elections. In his remarks, INEC Chairman Mahmood Yakubu says the next elections come 2027 will be a challenging one. Therefore, he appealed to the National Assembly to expedite the passage of the proposed amendment to the 2022 electoral law and the 1999 Constitution. Well, I'm joined by Mr. Debo Adeniran, who is the chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, CACOL, to discuss INEC's proposed reforms. Thank you very much for joining me, Mr. Adeniran. Let me begin by asking, overall now, what do you make of INEC seeking changes to the 1999 Constitution and the Electoral Act of 2022 ahead of the 2027 elections and others after that?
In any procedure, in any law, in any guideline. So it doesn't matter how beautifully crafted you have a policy or guidelines. If people that are mischievous are allowed to operate it, they will still find a way around it, where they will manipulate the process to suit their whims and caprices. All of the reforms that have been suggested, yes, they are beautiful. They are capable of maybe achieving credible election. But then there will always be a loophole for those who have perverted minds. And that is the only fear, because it's still Nigerians that will operate the law, the guideline, and the reforms. it is Nigerians that will be candidates, and they will be the ones to be voted for. So it is the restructuring of the mind, refocusing, and new moral rectitude that is likely to help rather than changing policies and the rest of that.
INEC is also seeking full control over state electoral appointments, starting with appointing resident electoral commissioners to oversee polls in the state, rather than the president doing so as we have it currently. INEC now says it wants the power to discipline these recs. Is this a considerable proposal from the commission?
The truth is that it is possible that INEC will become truly independent, just like other institutions like Central Bank of Nigeria and other arms of government. They can be independent. They should be allowed to choose those who work with them and have the capacity to discipline them. But then it cannot be completely, INEC cannot be completely independent, just like the central bank cannot be completely independent of the executive, because they are not a separate arm of government. They run their affairs under the guidance of the presidency. Somebody will stay, the president will still have a say in the appointment or nomination or appointment of the chairman of INEC, and the voice of the president is actually stronger than the voice of all other arms of government who have one thing or the other to do, especially the judiciary. Even judiciary, as independent as we want to be, we are being made to believe. The president, the executive still play a lot of roles in controlling that arm of government, because the budget still have to be presented by the executive and defended by the Ministry of Justice. The same thing with the budget of INEC. No matter how independent it is, an arm of government or of the executive will still lord it over the budget and manipulate it in the ways that will suit the need or the interest of the ruling hegemony. So it doesn't matter what we do, but it will only give the outer world the semblance of true independence for the electoral umpire, which is okay. As a matter of fact, that they ask that they be able to discipline their members. All of those disciplinary actions will still pass through the judicial mill, and it is the judiciary that will have the last say, no matter how much they try. Because if they even set up a tribunal that we have once agitated for, that there should be electoral tribunal, even if they set it up, they will still have to appeal. The appellate court will still be there. The Supreme Court will still be there. It will not start the adjudication into any disputes in the conduct of affairs of INEC will not start and end with the proposed tribunal. It will not start and end in the high court, in the federal or state high court or appellate court. They will still go as far as Supreme Court. So basically, we should, it's worth it to some extent and to satisfy the yearnings of, but for me personally, I just believe that it is not the law. It is those who are operating the law. And the selection of those who will operate the new INEC law or guidelines should be those who have a clean pedigree, those who have performed wonderfully well in the areas they have found themselves serving Nigeria before. Those who may not want to stain their clean garment that they have acquired, they have worked for over the years, those who have integrity, those who are professional, those who have a family background that you cannot be ashamed of. Those are the kind of people we should look for. They are there in Nigeria, although unsung. Many of them have not had the opportunity of being in prominent positions like INEC before, but they have kept their cool, and they have been men and women integrity in the small corner they find themselves. These people can be sought out and be appointed.
Let me also get your thoughts on INEC's request to conduct all elections in one day in the country in a bid to save costs. We're talking of presidential, governorship, the National Assembly. Now, we understand how challenging this exercise is for INEC in various areas, such as logistics, despite assurances that all is in control just before the elections. Wouldn't INEC be stretching itself thin if this were the case, that's to conduct all elections in one day?
Well, I don't think so, because it doesn't take much to compile statistics and analyze it. Now that we have several machines, packages, apps that can help collate figures and decide on the results in real time. So it is not likely. What should be done is for INEC to have the power to screen even the candidates from different political parties. And as a matter of fact, we have once recommended that not just every Tom, Dick, and Harry should be allowed to register a political party. The political party should be seen to have the capacity to run the affairs of this country. And the criteria should be set in such a way that it will not make a joke out of our electoral system, where we have about 20, 30 political parties fielding candidates. The candidates who nominated by various political parties should be pre-screened to be sure that they are actually capable of carrying out the assignment of governance that they are likely to be saddled with in case they won election. And that screening should actually reduce the number of those who are capable, of running the election and winning the election. Now, those we make it easier for INEC to control the number of paperwork that they have to do. All of these screening machines should be made to be compiling the results in real time, like IREF, should be fed in such a way that it won't be necessary for human intervention anymore, and that people can use their maybe biometric statistics to even vote. I think that is one of the reforms that they are talking about. That is, you don't need to keep on using the archaic system to conduct the affairs of this country anymore. We have several documents, several, what do we call it now? Several documentation that could assert the personality of the person that came to vote. And the only thing is to prove that they are alive, their eyeballs should be screened, their fingertips could be also screened, and all of that should be enough. Since we have NIN, that NIN and even voters card have collected our biometrics.
Well, it seems now that INEC and the Nigerian Senate are on the same page, because a bill to amend the Electoral Act of 2022 to provide for same-day elections nationwide as a cost-saving measure and to reduce voter apathy scaled second reading in the Senate back in March this year. Speaking of voter apathy, you think same-day elections will make a difference?
Well, the communication was breaking intermittently, but I believe that voter apathy can be reduced if we allow people to vote where they find themselves without necessarily have to go and queue up in the rain, in the sun. If people can use their smartphones to vote, it's just that they may need to download a particular application that will make them to be to identify themselves, and we are able to do that. If we can withdraw money, without necessarily having to go to the bank, then we should be able to vote without having to go and queue up at polling station. Technology has gone beyond all this pedestrian level where everybody will have to queue up and they have to see you, they have to take your picture all over again, even when your fingerprints will bring out your pictures that have been taken when you are registering for NIN, when you are registering for as a voter, and all of that. You have all of this data that have been compiled. Let them harmonize the data if there's any doubt. Any other thing any other requirement that is not embedded in our NIN should be included one way or the other, and let us be able to vote the way we withdraw money or transfer money from one point to the other. So that is the only way by which voter apathy could be reduced. Some people feel too big to go and queue up. All of these people will be able to vote, with their own machines, with their computer or with their smartphones and all that. They will vote. It will reduce risk. It will reduce violent attack. It will reduce all sorts of things, and it will reduce manipulation of electoral process. And of course, there are applications. The application to be used will be foolproof, that nobody can hack into, and there should be backup, machine, or what do you call it now? Backup data storage facility that will not allow anybody to manipulate the computer system or the data system and get away with it. Because as voters cast their ballot, it should go to both the IRF, the immediate storage facility, and the backup, which will not be available to those who are actually conducting the election until there will be a need to prove that the ballot cast is the result that is announced at the end of the balloting period. So basically, it will reduce costs, it will reduce violence, it will enhance security, it will a lot of things. It has a lot of advantages. I agree with them.
Although Mr. Adeniran, we'll get back to our conversation after this short break. Do stay with us. We will be back shortly. Welcome back. Let's continue the conversation on proposed reforms by INEC. That's reforms to the Electoral Act and 1999 Constitution. Mr. Debo Adeniran, chairman of CACOL, is still with me on the program. Now, Mr. Adeniran, still on the issue of same-day voting, with which the Senate and INEC as well now say will boost voter participation. Do you think Nigeria has the technological infrastructure, to handle the demands of same-day elections? Because that's another challenge that confronts INEC.
The money we spent, running physical identification and the rest of them is enough to acquire the technology. But I believe that we have Nigerians that are technologically savvy to the extent of even developing a homegrown, application that can be used for our own election. Everywhere you go in the world, you find Nigerians making their waves, in the field of technology. Even in Nigeria here, we have several firms that are very innovative, that are very creative, and that have been performing wonders in the areas of development technology. Look at Remita. I mean, if we can use Remita and it's working for the past 8 or so years that they have introduced it into our payment system, we should believe that a company like those who develop Remita, that system specs, can still develop new applications that can, with which we can vote and be collated in real time without wasting time. As a matter of fact, that application itself can be used. They only have to adjust it to suit the purpose of electoral system. So basically, we can vote one day. Even the diaspora voting that has been talked about for so long can be included.
There's the flip side to INEC's reform proposals. Nigeria's House of Representatives Committee for Political Parties had earlier called for the unbundling of the commission by removing the power for registration and regulating political parties and vesting the power in another institution. How good do you think this idea is?
They don't have to remove those powers. They should have, as a matter of fact, like I said it earlier, they should have more powers to whittle down the number of registrable political associations. The conditions should be made more stringent. The capacity to administer the life of people should be measured in technical terms, in terms that will ensure that if they eventually won election, they will run a government that will be truly democratic. And if you don't want democracy, we should be able to determine how we want to be governed by ourselves through through the choices that we will have made for ourselves. So basically, if we have a truly independent electoral body, like we are talking about, they should be granted the powers to determine how they want to operate. Like I said the other time, once we have credible Nigerians with good and enviable track record in places they have served before, they should be entrusted with the capacity to run our electoral system from cradle to grave without interference from another body, another government agency. Let them do it, just like the CBN is doing. There's no human being that is perfect. I'm not saying that we should look for complete saints to run our electoral system, but we should also be vigilant. As soon as we discover that somebody is capable of soiling his or her hands in the filthy, in the filthy jar of electoral corruption, manipulation, and the rest of them, evidence should be gathered against such a person. And as a matter of fact, the operations of the INEC itself should be guided by, by technology that we monitor everything that is being done at every stage. And there should be backup system that cannot be manipulated by the same set of people. So once this is done, we have to begin to trust ourselves. Once we repose adequate trust in a set of people to govern our electoral system, let us put our trust, the trust. Let us put confidence Let us repose adequate confidence in them. There will always be some fault here and there, but there should be consequences for wrongdoing. Every wrongdoing in the electoral system should be treated according to the enabling law. And the enabling law, I said, should be very strict on all of the offenses that are attached to the operations of INEC. So basically, we should repose adequate confidence in ourselves. They don't need to unbundle anything. They just have to operate within the administrative, purview of INEC.
Well, the 2027 elections is in 21 months. Hopefully, it's enough time to discuss and agree on what reforms should be implemented before then. Mr. Debo Adeniro, Chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, a call. Thank you for coming on the program and talking to us. That's it on this episode. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next time.
It's extremely important to recognize that Afghanistan is one of the world's most climate-impacted countries and also prone to natural disasters. I was able to witness firsthand the work that has been done on reintegrating refugees and returnees coming into the province, looking at the work that has been done in response to the earthquake in this area. Innovative approaches have been undertaken by the United Nations and partners to have local vernacular structures which are earthquake resistance, rebuilding permanent structures in this village behind me. I have seen again firsthand the collective efforts of the local authorities, of the partners, NGOs and the United Nations in trying to rebuild the lives together with the communities here. The response has enabled people to rebuild lives in a very challenging environment. And in my visit in Herat, I have had the opportunity to look at private sector enterprises that are working, bringing Afghan men and women into the marketplace, into economic activity, and particularly women-led micro and small enterprises was eye-opening to look at the potential on one side and the need for support for these enterprises to scale up through investments in microfinance, access to markets, support in business literacy skills, etc. This is a vital part of rebuilding Afghanistan with its private sector, tapping into the human capital of Afghan men and women, and affording the space, particularly for women and girls, to contribute and have the space to be part of the nation-building process of Afghanistan.
Even though it is considered that we have a so-called disability, we really are able persons with different abilities.
For society and development to be included of persons with disabilities, we need to have equal access to education and to knowledge and information. Yet, out of millions of publications each year, fewer than 5% are made available in accessible formats for visually impaired persons. In developing countries, an even smaller percentage of publications are available in accessible formats. The Marrakesh Treaty, as it is called, will greatly expand the availability of artistic and literary works in accessible forms, such as Braille, large print text, and audiobooks. This can make a real difference in the lives of the world's more than 300 million visually impaired persons.
At the end of the day, we must come together and make however and where we are in the world be a place of unification, because me being blind visually doesn't mean that I have to be blind spiritually. And someone being sighted doesn't mean that they should be blind of those things in the world that we need to fix. We have to have inclusion.
Let us not become handicapped again, blind to the issues and the problems of those in need.
Good day and welcome to your favorite sport program on TV, 360 Sport. As usual on the program, it's definitely going to be another exciting moment on the show. A moment that even after the show, you have a lot of reasons to go and visit us on all our social media platforms to get those parts of the program you miss. I have two important guests in the show, and these two guests from two different parts of the world. One from the side of the federal government and also a private sector. A lot of people have been talking about private sector and public sector involvement to enable a lot of things go further. And I'm sure these investors, these entrepreneurs have done so well for themselves to really collaborate to ensure that equestrian sport gets to where it's. A lot of people are also surprised that we have equestrian sport in this part of our world. But without so much ado, let me go straight to Abuja, where we have the president of Equestrian Federation, that's Nigerian Equestrian Federation, talking about Dr. Anthony Obiora. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Also, in the studio with me is we have Madam Vanessa Asuni, who is also into equestrian services. She is the owner of Giddy Equestrian Services. A lot of things has to do with animal